All right, so we said lesson 3 or module 3 deals with cleaning, transforming, and loading data in Power BI. In the previous module, that is module 2, it was all about loading data and getting data, as in getting data from different sources. So we're able to see that we can get data from SQL Server, that is a database. We can also get data from raw files or from CSV file. Example of the CSV file is Excel sheet. We're able to get data from Excel sheet as well. So data from Excel, data from SQL Server, you can bring the two different data from different sources together under Power Query when you click on transform, and you can investigate to see the quality of the column. So in the previous lesson, we were able to investigate the quality of the columns. We're able to see columns that has null values or empty values. We're able to see columns that have duplicated values. We're able to see the profile of the columns. So in this lesson, we will be cleaning, transforming, and loading data. Cleaning in the sense that where there should not be null, because you cannot multiply, for example, a unit price. If a unit price is null, you can't multiply it by any number. So we need to probably replace it with zero. You can replace a null with zero, okay? And then you can also make sure that in place of duplicated data, you remove duplicate, or where the column heading it's wrong. We saw example of a column. We have two column, one with this name warehouse. We saw another one with the name, okay, where as a separate word, okay, a space in between them, and then house. So because of this space alone, the computer will not combine the data in the two places together. So if they were meant to be together and they are not being combined because one has a space in between, the other does not have a space, so then we need to clean the data. All right, so that is part of the things we will be doing in this lesson. After cleaning, we also transform. We can transform a data that is given to us as maybe text. We can transform it to a number. So we are seen different data type. We have seen before text. Text is represented as what? A to Z, if you remember. Okay. And then we have seen numbers. Okay. And numbers are of different type. We have seen number like 1 to 9 or 0 to 9. Okay. We have also seen binary number data type. Okay. We have seen dates data type. So we'll see how we can transform data type. For example, a date normally will be in this format, like today's date, maybe 26, 28, apology, 28, 06, then 2021. So you can actually have this represented as 28, then you can have this 06, another splash, then you can have 2021. So that is about transforming. So you can transform a column from one data type to another data type. After we have finished cleaning, transforming, then we can load the data into Power BI for us to be able to create a report and visualization on it. All right, so this lesson will look at how to shape our data, how to profile our data, and how to enhance the structure of the data. Sometimes you may need to break a particular column into two parts. For example, if you have a full date, you can break it into months, you can break it into year, you can break it into quarter, you can break it into week, you can break it into days of the week as well. So look at all that. So the first one is about shaping your data. How do you shape your data? First, why should you shape your data? What are the benefits? First benefit is when you shape your data, it helps you to have more accurate results, and then you have a table that is better organized, and again also make it easier for navigation. You can easily navigate from one column to the other, and then also makes it to be in a more human readable format. That's why we need to clean our table or our data that we have in the table. All right, identify column headings and names. Power Query Editor can help us to clean up and shape our data. So with Power BI, we have a tool called Power Query Editor, which is inside of the Power BI. And that's what we can use to transform our data. So if you have data from different sources, in the case of this diagram, you can have a data from the cloud or a data from your server, okay, maybe from your SQL server or from the cloud. You can add it to another data from Excel. And then when you bring the two data together, you can actually transform the data before you start working on it. You transform the data. Transform the data meaning you clean the data up. You reshape the data before you start coming up with different visualization. And when you do your visualization and create your report, you can publish your report to the Power BI cloud, which is called the Power BI service. And once it is inside of the Power BI service, you can create a dashboard from it. And a dashboard can be accessed via the mobile device or via any browser on your desktop or your laptop. All right, shaping data structure. One of the ways you can shape a data, you can actually remove a particular role you don't need, and then you can also change the header name. For example, if you have a data you import from Excel, and instead of the data to have the correct table name, okay, the correct column name rather, and it's having a wrong one, like in the case of this one, you have this is correct with this one is subcategory, it call its name, okay. So you can try to remove the top rows. So as a way of shaping your data, if you have a lot of data, maybe you have a table with some rows that are empty, or you have, let's say, a column. Let's start with column. So if you have different columns, okay, let's say this is your column A, column heading B, and then you have probably column C. So if, for example, you have a particular column that has several null values, that means nothing there, no value there. So in that case, you can start to remove it. So that's what we are saying here. You can click on remove inside of the Power Query and remove a particular column. So you can remove a particular column. You can remove multiple columns as well. So you can remove this column. That's what this will do. It will remove a column as a way of shaping. Maybe the column has a lot of empty data, or it's a duplicated column, or a column you don't need. You can remove it. Then you can also remove rows. If you have rows, these are row value. Okay, if you have row values that you do not need, you can also remove the top rows. Top rows here could be top 3 rows. Like in the case of this one now, nothing is on this row. So if you import an Excel sheet and the first row in that sheet is empty, and by the time you import it, you see that it's empty, you can try to remove the top row because it is empty. You don't need it. You can also promote a particular role to become your role heading. Those are ways you can actually shape your data. All right. You can also turn your rows to your column. You can also turn columns to rows. So you can transforming a data from row to column or column to rows. So we have what they call pivots and unpivots. So to unpivot, it means you are transforming your data from your rows to your column. If you have a data like this, so you can see category name, bikes, 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 category number, you can see them, and then you discover that there is a lot of repetition. You can see here bike, bike, bike. You see clothing, clothing, clothing. So because of this repeated rows, you can make this row to become a column heading. So the transformation is what they call pivoting. So you can pivot, and also if you have a column, you can also transform the column back to rows, which is called on pivot. So you can pivot and unpivot a column. You can transfer data from rows to column and column to rows. The reason why you need to transfer data from rows to column, like in the case of this one, is because you see a lot of what duplication in your rows. So that case you can transform it, and then easily you know how many bikes are here. One, two, three. How many are clothing components? You calculate, you see them, it will give it to them, give them to you once, 8. How many are components? There'll be maybe 14 accessories. So there will be need sometimes to pivot and unpivot. Pivoting and unpivoting means transforming rows to column or column to rows, as the case may be, or as it may be deemed required. And the condition when you need to do that, I have explained to you. Where you see a lot of repeated rows, one of the things you can consider is to transform the rows to column so as to get the units, okay, from there. All right. Review questions. The primary data preparation tools in Power BI is called what? That is Power Query. That is what we use to prepare our data. That's what we use to clean our data. That is called the Power Query. The process of shaping data by converting your flat data into a table that contain aggregate value for each unique value is called what? Pivoting. So pivoting is a way of shaping your data. You convert your data from rows to column. As you are converting, there will be aggregation. Now, what do we call aggregated value? If you go back and look at this, so you can see these are rows. As you transform your rows to column, there will be an aggregation. Aggregation means a summation. So summation of what you have here, 1 2 3. How many times do you have it here? 3. So you aggregate it. How many times do you have your clothing? If you count this one, it will be 8 times, so it will aggregate as 8. So when you do a pivoting, it will aggregate as you turn your rows to your columns. All right, what can be achieved by removing unnecessary rows and column? When you remove unnecessary rows and column, that is by deleting the rows and columns to reduce your data set, and that will help as a way of having only the data you need. So instead of having a lot of empty rows or empty columns, or columns with maybe 2 data out of 1000 rows under a column, maybe only 2 is being used, you can actually remove it. Okay, if you also have rows that are near empty, you can also remove it if they are not necessary. Okay, lesson 2, under this module 3, profiling the data. How do you profile your data? Profiling data and examining the structure. Data profiling is understanding the states and the structure of your data. We also did something like that under column. We did column profiling. So similar to column profiling, we also have what they call the profiling of the data itself. To profile a data, what do? We need to come to our modeling. So there's a model tab inside of the Power BI. Okay, I can open it for you. I've opened it before. Let's see. Okay, so here you see what I'm talking about. So you can see when you click on this one, okay, so we can model our data. So here I have not added any data, so but if I have added data, it will give me the relationship between the different data that I have, and that's where you can do modeling of your data. So we would all right, so here data profiling is understanding the state and the structure of your data you are working with. So from here, under the modeling, you can see different table and then relationship established between them. And you can see under a table name, the columns that makes up the table. The name of the columns are specified for each of them. Okay, so we can see from here as well, when we click on column profiling, it will show us the statistics and also distribution. We have seen this before. As you move from one column to the other, it will show you the statistics and the value that you have there, distribution. Okay, how many rows does Power BI scan to detect the type of data in the column? By default, it will scan only 1000. That is why if it's more than 1000, it will abridge it. It will just tell you 9999. Okay, it will only scan 1000. If you want more than 1000, yes, you can. But by default, it will scan 1000. Okay, data profiling is defined as what? How do you define your data profiling? Studying the nuances of your data. That is data profiling. Studying the nuances of your data, studying the structure of your data, the kind of columns that you have under each one. What is the risk of having no value in a numeric column? If you have a non-value in a numeric column, what it means is that you'll not be able to do calculation on it. That's true. If you have a null value, you can't do calculation on null value. That is the risk. So the language that we normally use when you are working with Power BI, one of the language apart from using SQL to write a query is DAX expression. Okay, you have the DAX expression, and you can create average. So you can create average when one of the value is null. If you have a table and then one of the column has null value, there's no way you can find the average. Let's say you have price. Okay, you have maybe units, you have amounts. If a particular, if there's no price attached to a particular one, then it will be, so if you have zero price, then what that means is that you cannot do average. So if you have price values here, 0 and 2, what is the average of zero, of null? Not zero. Null is not the same as zero. Null is not the same as zero. However, you can transform your null to become zero. It's not the same as zero. Okay, null is not the same as zero. So if you transform your null to zero, then you'll be able to do calculation on it. But if it remains as null, you can't do any calculation, or mathematical expression cannot work on it. Lesson 3 under the module 3, enhance your data structure. How do we enhance our data structure? You can also decide to rename a table. If the name of the table is not good enough, you can come to the query and rename the table name. Okay, just like you have here, Power Query. This is my Power Query. If I do not like this name of a table, DIM employee, I can right click and click on rename. And I can call it staff table, staff detail, okay, staff details. So this way I have renamed it. So you can simply do a rename like that. If you want to rename this one to, right click and click on rename. That will do just that for you. Okay, apart from renaming, what else can you do? You can also replace value. You can replace value. So here, if there's a value here called attributes, and you see this, what does it look like? It looks like what? Calendar month. So you can change this one to months, okay, of the year. So that's another way you can replace a value heading. So from here, the same thing, similar to what I did before. I'll come here. Okay, so this is employee key. If I want to change this one to another thing, okay, I can come to the home. I can click here, right click straight, right click on it, and click on change. I can change the data type. I want to rename. I can rename it. I can change the name to employee, for example, employee ID, enter. So it has changed. So you can right click on it and do it. Instead of looking for where to do it here, you can right click and work on it. Okay. All right. So what else can you do? You can also evaluate and change the column data type. I have done that before. If you right click on a particular one, you can change the data type. Okay, this is a data type that is ABC. That means this text. You can change it to date. If you want to change it to date, data type. Okay, um, come again to. Okay, so this is number. It's good. This is number. Let me see the one I can change. Okay, this is number. It's good. Okay, like this now. This is already existing as dates, so I don't need to change it again. But let's see if there's anyone. Okay, this is phone number. Okay, it is not coming as number. I want to change the data type. Just click inside it or right click as the case may be, and then you can change. If you click inside, you'll see data type can be changed to let's say number. Okay, this is as text now. You can change it to a whole number. It gives you error. Why is it giving you error? It's giving you error because I can click here to change to undo it because of this minus minus. So you can't have minus there. So one of the things that can be done is you can split this into three parts, into 320, 555, 0, 1, 95, and later combine them as one number. Okay, so you can split if you want to split. Okay, and later combine them. So you can see if you right click here, it says split column. I can split it by delimiter. Delimiter is that minus, okay, in between them. By delimiter, if I click on it, okay, I want to split this phone, it will tell me he has found that this is the delimiter minus. Okay, I can say, all right, split. You see, it has splitted it. You now have 320. Okay, you have the second one. Okay, after the minus, the third one. Now, as I've splitted it, I can now combine the three of them together. Select this one. Okay, um, I can select the first one. The first one is this. Hold down my shift. Second one, third one. I've selected the three. I can right click again and tell it to combine them together. Okay, merge the column. It will merge the column for me. Right click. I want to merge. Nothing is separating them. Just merge them together as one. Okay, so I can merge them together. It will create another column. You can see another column that will be used to merge together. So it has merged them together. So now that it has merged them together, I can now say, okay, this is not correct as a text. I want to change it. So I can click inside there and now choose number, O number, and then it will transform it to number. And after doing that, I can come here and then double click to change the name. I can now call it phone numbers. That's a name. Enter. I've changed it. Okay. So that's one of the ways you can transform. Yeah. Well, you can, but it is better for you to go that step so that you can actually easily know that there's no mistake. You can search for and delete all those minors in between them. Okay. But the best approach is to split first based on the what is dividing them and later combine them if you want it as number. But you can equally do it that way. But if you want to retrace your step becomes an issue. So if I want to redo what I've done, I can see the last thing I did was to do a rename. It's going to show it here under apply step. If I want to cancel that one, I cancel it. If I want to cancel this one, I cancel. I want to cancel the merge, I cancel. So it's like clicking undo. Okay, I want to change this rename. I cancel. All right. Okay, so you can evaluate and change the column type. We have mentioned that. Okay, sometimes it will tell you couldn't load the data for the virtual. Okay, the MDX script calculation error in measure a column specified in the call total year to date is not type of a date. So if you look at this, if we don't change this one to date, okay, it may be difficult for the computation when you want to do computation to see this as a date, and that is why it is good to always make sure that our data type is rightly represented to have the correct data type. All the columns should have the correct data type. So in this case, this is supposed to be a date. If you don't change this one to date data type, it will give you issue later on when you want to use formulas. Okay, combine multiple tables in a single table. So you can combine multiple tables into one table. What do we call that? There are two ways. You can do append or you can do merge. So here, append means concatenate rows from two or more tables into a single one. That is append. Rows, that means the column is the same or similar heading, and then you are adding the tables, the rows together. So here, if you have table one, so available table maybe is you have these three tables. You have table one, table two, table three. Okay, or you have table one production suppliers, sales customer, HR employee, and the record that you have here, that is the column here, are similar to the column you have in this one. You can actually combine the rows of data from this one and this one into one. So that is talking about append. So the keyword also matters. Understand the keyword. Append is concatenating rows. That means joining rows together, copying data from one table, copying out the rows from one table to another table. Okay, and then you also have merge. What is merge? Merge is selecting table and matching the column to create a join. So merge refers to columns joining together. Append refers to what? Rows being concatenated. Merging refers to columns, and this one refers to rows being concatenated. So in a merge, you specify your columns. Okay, you can merge multiple columns together, and you can equally specify what is common to both columns as a way of combining the data from this column, join it to data from another column. So when you talk about column, you talk about merge. When you talk about append, you are referring to adding rows from two or more tables into a single table. Okay, we can also use advanced editor. Advanced editor can be used to modify our M query. So the queries we write in Power BI, we have what they call the dark query. You also have M code. So you can see a code like this and you can edit it. So there's something called advanced editor which can edit for you, and you can if you understand what this is, you can easily make changes. Like this one is saying we are picking a database called TSQL v4 from our local database, local host. Okay, and then what are the tables we are working with? We are working with sales table. Okay, and then you have sales order table, and then you split your column by delimiter. That is advanced editor. We'll still work with it also in the course of this topic. What is the most what is not the best practice for naming convention in Power BI? Abbreviated column name is not good. It is not a best practice to abbreviate column name. Rather, try to rename, provide a name that is descriptive and it is full, not abbreviated column name. What functionality lets you see the code that is generated as part of your transformation? So you can see the code from advanced editor. I will show it to you. If you have two queries that contain different data with the same structure and you want to combine them into one query, which operation should you use? You can use append. Append is talking about what? Talking about data. Data refers to rows of data. You can pull data from one table to another table, pull the rows of data together through append. You can merge their column. If you have three columns in one, another column, you can merge the columns together by using merge. But you can bring in the data together by using append. Okay, so we'll look at our example now. All right, so let me do some demo and then we'll start. Okay, we have 30 minutes. Yo. All right, so let's see what we have here. So all the things I've mentioned, you can see to continue from here, all the steps I took before, they are all listed here. Okay, if you right click, so you can see all the things we mentioned here. All properties will be seen here if we click on it. Okay, and then um, all the things we mentioned, as you make changes, you will see the changes here. If you transform this one, it will tell you information on this side. So we can, I've tried to merge, I've tried to also break a column into multiple columns for you. So you can see how to work with columns. You can add a different column entirely. You can also, like we mentioned before, check your column profile, your column quality, and all of that. Okay, so let's start our next. Please start your module 3, load data in Power BI. Module 3, since we already have this one open, I think yeah, since analysis is open, okay, click open, apply. Okay, is that module 3 now? Can we start module 3? Let us start module 3. We can walk through the steps ourselves. It's very explanatory, and I think in 30 minutes you should be able to complete everything, and then we would review together by 5 minutes to 4. Let us start. So we can leave this one open and continue. Else you can also decide to close it, but you can leave it open and you can decide to close it and follow this guide. Remove all the columns except the following. So all the things we need. Okay, I think it's better. Let's see from the beginning. Okay. If you are continuing from your previous lab, do not complete this task. Okay, instead continue from the next. So if you have not closed what you have here, please read. You are supposed to start from task 2. So you don't need to do tax 1 again. If you have not closed, you have not closed your own, you just go straight to tax 2 because all the things in tax 1, we have done them before. So you just go to tax 2 if you have not closed what you have opened. So if you have not closed it, just go to tax 2. Okay, so you go to tax 2, go to tax 2 where you have your, let me rename this one again. Rename it to, okay, DIM. All right, so you start from tax 2 and then run to tax, how many tasks are here? Okay, to tax 6, I think. Yep. So we can, oh, to tax 12. Let's see how we can do it in 30 minutes. Any question? If you have not closed where you were before, you start from tax 2. Reduce your volume. So if you have any question, please send the chats. I'm here to support. But please, you need to be able to read the steps and be able to work with the tool as you are being guided.